Hey gang, Wonder Rob here.
And Shop's here too.
This podcast is part of the Geek So To Speak network.
Visit geeksotospeak.com for our full podcast lineup.
Captain's Log, Stardate 99848.12. It's been a busy week for us on the USS TREKnological with a new episode of Picard blowing Co-Captain Shoff's mind. And myself, Co-Captain Vactor, looking forward to some new Trek comics from IDW. The present and the future are looking bright for us. I can only hope to contain Shoff's excitement while we record a new episode of our podcast. Oh, yeah, it's time for another episode of TREKnological. I am your co-captain Vactor, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-captain Shoff. Shoff, how's it going?
Yo, Vactor, beam me up, my man. It's good to be here. I'm glad to be back on this episode of TREKnological.
For those who don't know, Shoff is my favorite half Vulcan, half gangster rapper, Two Spock. Yeah.
Two Spock. Oh, did you come up with that on the fly?
I did not. That was from SNL, but I'm going to take credit for it as if I came up with it.
Since I didn't hear it from SNL first, I'm going to attribute you as the source. So, yeah.
Shoff says, live large and prosper, bitch. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening to all of that nonsense and listening to TREKnological, your source for some great Star Trek news and reviews. And we're actually focusing on this season of Picard, season 2, as it were. And we're going to have some lovely episodes coming up. And I think this episode is going to be very special. So thank you very much, like I said, for listening. You can check out all of our podcasts, wherever you find all of your podcasts, whatever catcher you use. I use Pocket Cast myself. That's my favorite. Shoff is the Apple man himself. But whatever you use, thank you very much for listening to us. If the place that you listen to actually has a review or rating system like Apple or Spotify, don't forget to always give us a great rating and review and tell your friends all about us. We would be very grateful to you. If you're not interested, or I should say, if you are interested, we are part of a podcast network. This is the Geek So To Speak podcast network, where we have a plethora of podcasts that you might enjoy, including a comic book podcast, which is Vactor Loves Comics, a Star Wars podcast, The Holdo Maneuver. You're listening to TREKnological right now, a Star Trek Shakedown, and the Big Daddy itself, Geek So To Speak, which is our geek news podcast. So all of those can be found over at geeksotospeak.com/network. Thank you very much, my friends. We wanted to have the first part of this episode be a little get to know the host. And this comes courtesy of Stoby's Galaxy, Jay Stoby on Twitter, a freelance writer for Star Trek. He came up with a great tweet this morning as I was driving into work, as I was flying into the office, Jetson style. And he said, we all know about Make It So, let's fly and hit it. But what would your warp speed catchphrase be if you were a Star Trek captain? So let's start off. Shoff, what would your catchphrase be?
So, I was really trying to be original. I was trying to think of something that no captain has ever said. And I failed. I totally am borrowing. I'm not going to steal it. I'm just borrowing. I'm just going to wear it for a little while. But if I was a captain, I want to see something like, let's punch it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's punch it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like a cool captain. Like I'm not like those regular captains. I'm like a cool captain.
Nice. Yeah. Shoff Solo, as it were. I actually would like to be a cool captain too, Shoff. So I was going to say something like, it's lit, fam. I was going to say something like that. Maybe something with the TikTokers and the kids these days, Shoff. Let's go.
Oh, here we go. let's get that warp speed busted, yo.
Yeah. I would say
On
something
God,
like that.
on God, respectfully.
Something like that. But in honor of, you know what I'm going to say today, Shoff? In honor of my meal that I had earlier today, I'm going to say, give me that Szechuan sauce. That's what I'm going to say in order to start my journey in honor of the McDonald's Szechuan sauce, which is from Rick and Morty, another sci-fi show that
Morty,
McDonald's...
Hey, Morty.
Rick, he's right here. But in honor of that, which I had earlier today with some nuggets, I'm going to say, get me my Szechuan sauce. And then the pilot will
That
know
would
to
be
go.
a very original, very cool captain. If I was your lieutenant, I'd be like, oh, man, this guy's got it going on. So
And if you, listener, would like to share yours, you can always tweet us, Shoff. I think that would be a nice place to let us know. We are TREKnopod on Twitter. But you can also, if you're listening to us on Anchor, you can actually leave us a voicemail, and we could actually play your captain's catchphrase right on the show. So let us know, because we are interested. We would like to know. Or if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment down below, and we can take a look there. We love to hear your warp speed catchphrase.
ooh, I like that. And I like that you engaged YouTube listeners too. That's something I always forget to do. Like I think podcasts and I think, okay, audio only, what audio podcast platform are you using? And I often forget about the podcast listeners on YouTube. So thank you, Vactor. That's a real good note.
Just to pull back the curtain, the only reason I remembered that is because I edit the YouTube videos, and I was thinking, oh, I got to edit this later, and I got to put it on YouTube. That's the only reason I remembered that. So, full disclosure. But I think, Shoff, let's scan the planet's surface for any Trek news.
We've got a few news articles found, sir. Shall I display it on the main view screen?
Make it so, Shoff. All right, we got some nice Trek news, Shoff, that I was taking a look at earlier this week, including Star Trek Resurgence, which is going to be the first Trek anything to capture the spirit of the 90s shows in a long time. I think you and I have been trying to get into Star Trek Online.
Yeah, we haven't. Our schedules have not aligned yet on that one.
Hopefully, we can actually come together and talk about that. But
It'd be
also,
nice to get some shore leave, you know?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard. When you're co-captains, only one captain usually gets shore leave. The other captains got to work. So.
Yeah. But there is a Star Trek Resurgence short demo that is out, and you can check out our show notes if you want to check out. But the spirit of the 90s shows has me very interested, Shoff, because Picard is a very different beast as far as the Star Trek shows and Discovery as well. So it's like a distinction between the 90s and what do we call these, the 2020s?
The aughts. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely want to take a look at Star Trek Resurgence when that comes out. Mission Chicago, Shoff, announced some panels for Picard, Strange New Worlds, Discovery, Lower Decks, and Prodigy.
Man, I wish I was in Chicago for these things. I was born in Chicago, so that's too bad. I'm not there right now to enjoy these panels.
Dang. Yeah, I want to take a look at these as well. And this also just makes me, as I've said many times, just grateful to be a Trek fan right now. There's so much content that's coming out right now. We're in a great period right now. If you ever want to time travel to a great Trek period, it's right now, Shoff.
This is a Star Trek renaissance, a Trek-naissance, if you will.
Yeah. I love it, Shoff. What I also love is comics, and we got a first look at the new comics that are coming from IDW, so you can check that out. In June 2022, we've got some nice graphic designs coming, so you can always head over to our show notes if you want to check those out.
Nice.
I also have a story, Shoff, about Chris Pine, who we have talked about before, who was very happy to meet the director of Star Trek 4, happy to be working, but still does not have a script for this movie that's coming out.
You know, Chris Pine is one of my favorite Chris's. Definitely a much more favorite Chris than, say, Chris Pratt. Ooh. But the fact that he is just excited to do Star Trek 4, I'm happy about. The fact that he doesn't have a script yet, and the movie's supposed to be starting to film, I think, later this year, like before the end of the year.
Yeah. Wow. We need to talk about that. But we won't talk about that until they actually have a script. We will let you know. Our final piece of Trek news, Shoff, I was told not to click on it. That's right. This is a Shoff special, so you tell me what to do, Shoff.
Okay, so this news was popping today. This news just came out today. And so as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, Vactor, I want to get Vactor's live reaction. But it's something that he has not yet seen. So the way I've got like the link set up on our agenda, it says Vactor, do not click until the show. So I'm going to let Vactor go ahead and click it, and he's going to give us his live reaction to this late breaking news about Star Trek.
Okay, I'm clicking on, I'm hovering my mouse over it. I'm clicking on this news right now, and it is saying, redirecting, Paramount announced Demastered edition of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. This is exactly what I've been waiting for, Shaw, because I haven't even read the article, but Demastered, I'm thinking this is going to be some type of HD remaster of the series. And we were talking about that, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, where I was like, man, I'm watching Deep Space Nine. I went back to the pilot and I was showing my wife, I wish this was in better quality. I wish this was in some type of upscaled HD or 4K. And it looks like we're getting some type of remaster here, Shaw.
Well, let me expand on the article for you. So I think you need to understand very carefully what a demastered means.
Oh, no, Shaw, the other direction. No. Shaw.
So now it says here in lieu of like having like an AI upscaled version with professional color grading and all that other stuff, they're announcing a new demastered edition of Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager. And instead of using Blu-ray or even DVD, these new editions of the seminal science fiction shows will be only available on VHS.
Oh, no.
Now, it's important to note that this article comes out today, April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Man.
It is totally fake. This is fake news. But I really like, Vactor and I have talked about how Deep Space Nine does not get the love of some of the newer shows in terms of like the HD quality. Like it's not in a widescreen format. It needs to be remastered in a big way. And so the fact that this article is kind of poking fun at that, I was like, I got to get Vactor's thoughts in the moment. So you did not disappoint. Thank you for that.
I actually was, I try to avoid the news for the most part on April Fool's Day because all it does is disappoint me. But there was Elgato, who makes a lot of the streaming equipment that we use, Shoff. They had on their YouTube page a similar idea where it was advertising a cam link, but it was like the opposite. It was like, this cam link turns your quality into VHS quality or retro. It was like Cam Link Retro, I think it was. If you go on Elgato's YouTube page.
Well, the funny thing is we joke about this now, but guaranteed they are going to do something like that. People are going to be like jonesing for classics. Because you know how vinyl took a big surge, right? Like I'm a big vinyl fan. But like vinyl is so inferior than, listening to something with digital quality now. So it's like you're choosing to listen to something with an inferior quality for the sake of the medium. So, it'll happen though.
Man, Shuff, I can't believe you got me on that one. Well, well played, Shuff. But I think something else that was well played was the episode of Picard. So let's set a course for our episode discussion, Shuff Maximum Warp.
Aye, sir. The course is laid in.
Give me that Szechuan sauce.
Oh, that's so good.
All right, we're back. We got a course laid in, and we've got the official synopsis for this episode of Picard, which is episode 5, Fly me to the moon. Picard discovers an important person from his past, which may be integral to the divergence in the timeline. Q continues his manipulation of the timeline. Seven and Raffi attempt to rescue Rios, and Girardi faces the consequences of her deal with the Borg Queen. Shaw, this episode was directed by number one himself, Jonathan Frakes, and written by Cindy Appel. And
I love Jonathan Frakes. And Cindy Appel, I mean, she wrote an excellent episode. But Jonathan Frakes, this guy, I wish he was like, I don't know if I wish he was my dad, but I wish he was at least my uncle. I wish I had just Uncle Riker. I'd be okay with that. Like that would be so much fun. Because you can tell he loves being in the Star Trek universe.
Right.
As many things as possible. Obviously, he did that commercial for Star Trek Fleet Command, the iOS game. And he had a lot of fun with that. He does a lot of directing of Star Trek episodes, in addition to other stuff. I hope that he's reprising his role as Riker at some point in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're spending so much time in the past, so it's unlikely. But maybe once they move back to the present day, there'll be some Riker Troy stuff going on. By the way, quick shout out to Marina Sirtis. She just had a birthday this past week.
I saw that.
Happy birthday to Counselor Troy.
Happy birthday.
Mzadi.
Nice. So yeah, Jonathan Frakes delivered an excellent episode, Shuff. I want to say right off the bat, you had text me before and you said, what was your words were something along the lines of wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that was really something. I was trying to be very careful not to get any kind of spoilery stuff, so I kept it pretty basic. But every episode, I've been really satisfied with. I haven't really felt like there's been any clunkers, any snoozers, or anything like that. Like they've all had really unique moments, and everything has really propelled the plot forward in a big way. It really feels like the show is polished and targeted. Like they really have the overarching story like very well storyboarded, and you can tell that everything is very carefully laid out.
Yeah, I'm loving this season. As if you've listened to our past episodes, you will know my thoughts on this season just continue to be positive. I have not seen an episode that I have disliked so far, and this one just keeps up that trend, Shoff. I very much enjoyed Fly Me to the Moon, and there's some great stuff with the Borg Queen. That was, I think, out of all the time.
Oh, real quick. For anybody who's listening and hasn't seen the episode yet but plan to, quick, we're going to throw up a red alert.
Yes.
Spoilers from here on out. So just plan ahead for that. Make sure to check out this episode. It's well worth your time. And then come on back to our podcast.
100%, Shoff. Out of all the timelines, out of all the storylines that we got in this episode, I think the Borg Queen was my favorite. The consequences that Girardi has to face with her deal with the Borg Queen, that was where the episode ends off. There's a kind of a cliffhanger moment. But out of everything here, I just wanted to say shout out to the Borg Queen because she's doing her thing, Shoff. I'm very much liking where this storyline is going.
Oh my gosh, she's doing an excellent job. You know, when the season first started, I remember being a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to say upset because that's a little extreme, but I would say I was disappointed that they didn't cast Alice Kriege or however you pronounce it.
And you even said that on the show too.
Yeah, I was disappointed that they didn't cast her with all the other characters coming back. So that they could have some consistency as well as the already built up chemistry between Patrick Stewart and her as those characters.
Right.
But Annie Wershing has really nailed it and brought some really great scenes and characterizations to the Borg Queen. She's sexy. She's manipulative. She's very powerful. Really, really liking her stuff.
And if you're interested in Annie Wershing, she actually is on the latest episode of The Ready Room on Paramount Plus, and you can find it on their YouTube channel as well. But she had a nice little sit down with Will Wheaton and gave a ton of behind the scenes stuff. You get to see her putting on her makeup. She talks about being on Star Trek Enterprise, which I did not know.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Actually, Shoff, did I tell you Enterprise is the only Trek show besides Discovery that I did not watch, while I did not get caught up in, I should say. Every other series in reruns, I've gotten just sucked into it. But Enterprise was the only one that did not capture me. So I would like to revisit it at some point.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely will. Because that is also the only show, the live action shows, that I never saw through all the way to the finish. Like I saw the ending episode. I think I watched the first maybe 2 seasons all the way through. But I kind of fell off of it because I think it just went a certain way with it. And I just didn't love it. And I kind of felt like maybe at that point I was, maybe it was just, it didn't feel like Star Trek to me. So I kind of stopped watching it, but I would like to get back into it, maybe see it with some fresh eyes. So
nice. You know, another thing, Shuff, real quick. I did not know this. As I was doing a little bit of research right here, Annie Wershing was in a game that I love, The Last of Us, and she played Tess, and she did a fantastic job. I did not pick out her voice, but just to give her a little bit of praise as well. She's did a great job in The Last of Us.
Did you ever watch the show Timeless?
I saw, I want to say I saw the pilot, but I didn't go any further after the pilot.
So quick shout out to Cinemark, who does our in review segments on Geek So to Speak. He's also co-host to Vactor on the Star Wars podcast, The Holdo Maneuver. But he's a huge Timeless fan, just like me. And Annie Wershing is on that show as well. And she plays one of the, I don't want to call her a villain, but she's definitely on the opposite, like antagonistic side of that story, and she does an excellent job on that too. So she's pretty much good in everything. I remember her also from the New Mutants TV show. She was on that, and really, really, really great on that too. And doesn't hurt that she's very pretty too. So
she stepped up her, as they said on that Ready Room, she stepped up her Star Trek. I guess her place in Trek, because before she was on that Enterprise episode, I think she was just kind of a minor character. Now she's the Borg Queen. It's like, whoa.
And you know, it's so interesting. So the way they left things off with Jurati, she basically got like assimilated again, or at least like the Borg Queen is now in her mind.
That's what it looks
her
like.
Consciousness is like shared in that way.
So do you think that's the end of her body?
I think so. And you know what? I kind of called this, Vactor. Didn't I say that Jurati was going to get fully assimilated by the end of this series?
Right.
Here's a theory that's running around. I saw this today online and I was like, oh my God, I got to get Vactor's thoughts on this. There's a big theory running around that the Borg Queen that we meet in the first episode, the one that comes through that rift in that weird looking Borg ship, the fact that she's got a mask on, that is actually Jurati.
Oh my, that is 100%. That is, I cannot, now that you've said that, I can't go back. There's no other thinking in my mind.
It seems like it's gotta be true. I mean, that just seems like, even though it's obviously like a theory and a big like outlandish theory, but there's so much that feels like it's heading that direction.
Yeah.
So
because when I was watching these last couple episodes, I kept thinking, why was she cloaked in that first episode? Because none of this other stuff makes sense of why they would be hiding her. That makes perfect sense, Shuff. So that's my new line of thinking. That's the only way that I'm going from here on out.
I love it.
Some other notable things in this episode. The Picard storyline for me, it didn't really go anywhere. He's catching up with this, what we think. I don't know who this person is.
This is confusing, man. I'm totally with you. It's very confusing to have her be played by the same actress, look like Laris, the Romulan from his chateau staff, that clearly they have a thing for each other. And then for her to look like that, but not be her, I don't even understand that. Like that, like, yeah, it's a mind effer, but like, I don't, like, if there's no actual explanation for that, then it just seems like the bad idea. I just don't like that choice. I don't think it needs to be her unless there is really some literary significance, like whatever the overarching story is, that the reason why she looks the way she does and the reason why she looks how she does as a Romulan in the future, like if there's something going on, I definitely want to know.
Yeah, because Picard is like, you're Laris, and she's like, huh? Who? So yeah, I want to see where that's going, but everything else that was going on in the episode, I was more interested in than that specific Picard.
Oh yeah, yeah. I noticed, and this is another big person in this episode, Dr. Sung.
Yes.
And we see that he's like tampering with genetics, and he's basically trying to cure his daughter, Corey Sung, who is played by the same actress who played Soji in the first season. Well, she's also in the first episode, but now you kind of get a better clue of why these future like Data, as well as other versions of descendants of Dr. Sung, have been so focused and on making the artificial beings look like Soji, or look like Corey, because Corey is this actual daughter of Dr. Sung. So that was really interesting to me. I wondered if she was going to pop back up in the season, because she was really kind of thrown away in that first episode.
Right. Her and now I'm blanking on his name.
Elnor.
Yeah, Elnor. Yeah. I was like, man, these guys are kind of getting the shaft in this season, especially Isa Briones is the actress that plays Soji. And then in this episode, I was thinking that they were kind of getting the shaft, but maybe there's some room for them in the end of the season. We don't have too many more episodes left in this season.
We're at the halfway point. Yeah, we're at the halfway point of the season. I wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention, Vactor, because I'm not sure that you caught it, and I wanted to see. So obviously, first of all, maybe a big cameo. I'm sure you caught this one. Leah Thompson is in this episode. After having directed 2 episodes, now she gets to be on the other side of the camera and be in it as Dr. Werner, who is part of this committee who's judging Dr. Sung and saying, no, you can't keep doing this. You're basically barred from any more genetic testing and things like that. But next to her, sitting down, is a character, is a male actor by the name, well, his character name is Dr. Vasily Roshenko. Now, does that last name mean anything to you, Vactor?
It sounds familiar, but I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, I'm going to give you a quick future history lesson, because obviously this episode is taking place in 2024.
Yes.
But in the future, there is a guy by the name of Sergei Roshenko, and he is a Starfleet chief petty officer. And he found and eventually fostered Worf, believe it or not, who survived the Romulan attack on the Khitomer outpost in 2346. So the last name Roshenko lived on, and Worf actually, his son Alexander took that last name. So his name is Alexander Roshenko. So when I saw that last name, I was like, no way. This dude is an ancestor of Sergei Roshenko. I was like, this is great. I love this stuff. I love when the just the points connect and the dots are like, oh my gosh. So I thought that was a cool moment.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely. I love when you have connections like that, and you can pick up names, and then they don't specifically mention it in the episode. But if you're an eagle-eyed fan like Shaw, you will pick up on that. So yeah, that scene was great with Leah Thompson. I'm really I think, like I said, in this one, it was definitely the Borg Queen and Girardi was my favorite. The second was the Q manipulating the timeline and playing around with Sung's ancestor. I think the Picard stuff is at the bottom. The Seven and Rafi rescuing Rios is like right in the middle for me. It's not, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It was just kind of right in the middle. But there's so much going on in these episodes that if something's boring for me, 2 seconds later something great is happening. Something like
that's an excellent point. An excellent point. I had a couple of realizations.
Yes.
One of which I felt kind of stupid about, and I wanted to share it with you. So, and maybe I'm alone on this one, but when they first crash landed on Earth in the past, right? They did their whole time travel thing, and they landed La Serena. I know they were parked outside of Chateau Picard, but for some reason, my brain did not immediately think that they're in France. Okay, like, because all of the rest of the cast was going off in LA, for some reason, my brain was like, okay, I guess Chateau Picard is actually in LA or outside of LA. And that's why, they're staying there and the rest of them are going into town and doing their thing. I like completely underestimated the transporters and like the power of a transporter and how it could transport somebody from one side of the globe to the other side of the globe. So it wasn't until this episode when the Borg Queen is manipulating the cell phone towers and she basically gets in contact with the police, but she's calling like the Le Bar France Constabulatory, and I'm like, she's calling constables in France and somebody's showing up, but they're in California. I'm like, what is going on? And then I was like, Jimmy, you're an idiot. Chateau Picard is in France. They transported to LA. And I was like, I cannot believe that escaped my brain until episode 5. So I suck is basically the situation.
Well, I suck as well, Shoff, because my brain went to the exact same place. So don't feel too bad. I think that was not too far a leap to go, but yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Because I was like, you better put a red shirt on me and send me on an away mission because I do not deserve to survive this this blunder.
Hey. Well, Shoff, I have a couple of Easter eggs for you. If there's nothing else did you want to say anything else about the actual episode?
The other big thing I wanted to briefly mention was just Brent Spiner as Dr. Sung and his interactions with Q. Is that where you were going?
Yeah. He did a great, cool. I should say he looked great compared to the makeup that they had to put on him for Data in the first season, to me, looked really bad. It made him look really bad. And this one, they just let him be the natural. I was like, yeah, look, he looks like a normal human again. This looks great. He's naturally aged into that part versus like when Data played Sung on the Next Generation and they had to put the old makeup on him. Now it's just like, oh, he's naturally older. He's got the white hair. So I thought Brent Spiner looked great and did a great job in his role.
And he's vicious. He cusses so much in this episode. It threw me off. I was like, wow, he's talking about killing people. He's just like using the F word. I'm like, who is this guy? But talk about like your childhood dreams are like shattered. Like, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah, definitely. We are growing up in this age of I was going to say Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and Picard. We're in a whole new era, Shoff. So I did want to. There's actually some quotes that I really liked.
Okay, yeah,
from
let's
this
hear 'em.
episode. Quotes that stood out to me. One was by. Actually, they're both by Q. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
We're all hostages to what we love. The only way to truly be free is to love nothing. And how meaningless would that be?
And I had to stop and think about that for a second. And it's just a fascinating image in my mind and thinking about letting go of, I think about this in Star Wars too, like with the Jedi, letting go of attachment, letting go of things that you love just for a larger purpose, a greater thing than yourself. And would I be able to do that? I don't think so. I think I'm going to stay a hostage to the things that I love. But it is very fascinating to think about that.
Agreed. And I think, I'm the same way, but I thought it was an interesting choice for Q to say that, because for Q to say that means that Q also loves.
Very good.
And to
point.
me, I'm like, well, who does Q love? I mean, does Q love Picard? Because at first you thought that he was doing Picard a favor, but now it seems like he's trying to undermine Picard. Like, he's trying to mess things up. Right. So it's really confusing as to what Q's motivations are, or like what his ultimate goal is. Because it really just seems like he's trying to create the bad outcome, or maybe that's subverting our expectations. Like maybe what creates the bad, like the alternate future that's really bad is what would happen if Q did not intervene. So I feel like we don't necessarily know what side Q is on. Our brain wants us to say he's trouble, but it really seems like he's coming at from a place of love. And I think that the other characters don't quite get that yet. And that's why I think like the lens of how we view Q this season, we got to be very careful, because I think we're so used to knowing that he's going to be messing with people and manipulating people to his own design versus doing it for the betterment of who he cares about.
Right.
Especially because it seems like he might be losing his powers and maybe even dying. I don't like, it definitely feels like he's getting more in touch with what matters. So I think it's really hard to sort of see where he's going with this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Shaf. I want to know what's going on, and it feels like Q is becoming more human and getting closer, and also throwing us off. Like, which way is he going? So I was very interested in that. The other quote that I really liked from Q was,
I am the evolution of stardust. I'm the gentle flutter of a butterfly. I am death, destroyer of worlds. And I'm also a big fan of your work.
which is a real life phrase that is very popular, but I liked hearing Q say it, and I just John, the actor,
John Delancey.
yeah, John Delancey, he does just a great, the way he says it and his expression, and I just liked it. Just felt good when he said it, Shaw.
Oh yeah. Another cool thing related to Q, since we're talking about it, and Easter eggs, within the episode when he's first reaching out to Dr. Sung and he's doing it sort of through the computer, he sends a message through the computer and he tells Dr. Sung, he's like, check your 3D printer. And so Q is basically like manipulated the 3D printer to print out a business card. Now, mind you, Factor, another reason why I felt stupid, I didn't even realize that was a business card. Like, I thought, why is he just like making a Q symbol? Like, that's weird to me. But then I was like, then I saw the digits below on the second like repeat viewing, and I was like, oh,
and
it's a business card.
On top of that, Shaw, did you know there's another Easter egg? The business card, if you call that number on the card, you get a real message from Q. The number.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, let's play that for our listeners so they don't have to call the number. But we'll play. This is what you would hear if you called Q's number on his business card.
Hello, you have reached the Q continuum. We are unable to get to the phone right now because we are busy living in a plane of existence your feeble mortal minds cannot possibly comprehend. Furthermore, it's pointless to leave a message because we, of course, already knew that you would call, and we simply do not care. Have a nice day.
Oh, man. Wild. So cool. I love that. I love Easter eggs like that.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And real quick, I'll just name a couple more Easter eggs. This is not really an Easter egg, but kind of something of note. This episode is 41 minutes, which is relatively short for modern Trek shows. But it packed, a wall up. Everything that was inside of it was jam packed with content. So I didn't even notice it. 41 minutes went by quick for me. Did you get a chance to watch this twice?
I did. I watched it twice. And I was glad I did because that second viewing really provided some focus for me. Go ahead.
The actress who plays Renee Picard is Penelope Mitchell. She had a recurring role on The Vampire Diaries alongside Paul Wesley, who is in Strange New Worlds, playing Kirk. So there's a connection there. Renee Picard also has even though as per family tradition, French-born but has an English accent, she also has a French flag on her NASA flight suit. Her birthday, Shoff, is November 22nd, 1996. Do you know what day that was in real life in the Shoff timeline?
96. Is that when First Contact came out?
That is the release date of Star Trek First Contact, directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Jonathan Frakes. Yes.
Shoff got it, and hopefully you did too. So those were my Easter eggs that I found. So there was a lot of stuff in this episode, Shoff. This was a great episode.
I love it. We're running a little bit low on time, but what I want to do, so every week we introduce a new Trek term. I'm not going to go into the weeds on this one, but what we will do is we'll direct our listeners out to our social media, because every Tuesday I've deemed that to be Trek Tuesday in terms of our terms. So for Trek terms, you're going to get a nice detailed post about our whatever term it is for that week. And this week it's going to be Gary 7. So Gary 7 is briefly mentioned by Picard in this episode because Picard meets a supervisor by the name of Talon, and Talon looks like Laris, the Romulan from his present day storyline. But Gary 7 is also a supervisor. So this is not the first time that we've seen a supervisor on Star Trek. In fact, Gary 7 is actually from the original series. So there's a lot of details about him, but particularly this episode is called Assignment Earth. So if you are interested in the original series and you want to see more about a supervisor, then you're going to want to check out Assignment Earth, that episode.
Very nice. And our Insta and Twitter is at TREKnological. So that's where you can find our socials. And before we get out of here, Shoff, we have a very special segment that Shoff brought to my attention. There's a new flavor of Coca-Cola.
That's right.
And it seems like it's a galactic flavor, Shoff.
It's right. It's called Coca-Cola Starlight, and it says it tastes like space. It's space flavored. And I was like, what better place to do a space taste test than on this podcast?
Yeah.
So for our ASMR fans, I'm going to go ahead and open this real close to the microphone. Oh, gosh. That was too good.
That
was
sounded
too
like
good.
it came from Shoff.
I have not had a sip of this. This is a totally just blind taste test, and I don't know what it's going to taste like. I'm smelling it. It smells sweet. It definitely smells much sweeter than a Coca-Cola normally would be. It's a little bit lighter in color as well to a Coca-Cola. I would say more of like a maroon burgundy color. So we're going to give it a shot. I gave the just a, it's thirst quenching, right? I need another taste. I can't tell you.
He did it. He took another one.
I'll tell you what, I like it. If this is what space tastes like, then I'm going to need more space.
And I
would like a second helping of space, please.
I actually had a chance to taste this as well, and I thought it was good, very kind of berry flavory.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get.
And I would probably get it again. I'm not a big Coke drinker. My wife is. Actually, she loves Coke. I've always been a Pepsi guy myself, but I would get this one again. I really enjoyed the space flavor of it, Shoff.
Yeah, it's kind of it's sweet enough to almost have a slight cotton candy-esque flavor to it as well. So yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. But yeah, so get yourself some Coke Starlight and find out what space tastes like.
And let us know in not only our YouTube comments down below what you think about that, but you can also reach out to us on Anchor. Like I said, we have a voicemail system on Anchor that you can leave either on the website or the app itself, which is actually a really cool app. But you can also send us a message at TREKnological on Instagram or Twitter. And we would love if you would actually give us a nice rating, review in whatever podcast player you're listening on, particularly Apple and Spotify. Leave us a wonderful review. Please tell all of your family and friends, because Shoff said it last week, but I forgot to mention, Trek runs deep in the family. And I have a grandfather, or actually I had a grandfather. He passed away. But my grandfather and my grandmother used to watch Deep Space Nine and Voyager every week. They would not miss it. My cousin told me that. I did not know that up until 2 weeks ago. He just told me that. So my Trek love runs deep in the family. My dad as well. And also the actor who plays Tuvok in Voyager is a family friend, which I knew that going into this podcast, but I forgot to tell Shoff. So I informed him last week, but Trek runs deep in the family. So if you have a friend or family member who loves Trek, let them know that Vactor and Shoff are here every week talking about Trek. And next week, we're going to be talking about another episode of Star Trek Picard. And we would love if you would join us. We'd also love if you checked out our podcast network, Geek So to Speak Podcast Network, where you can find all of the great shows, Geek So to Speak, Holdo Maneuver, Sandbox Gamers, which I forgot to mention earlier at the beginning of the show, but that's our video game show, as well as Vector Loves Comics, the comic book show. So all those are on geeksotospeak.com/network. I believe our mission of the week is complete, Shoff. Shoff and Vector here. 2 to beam up.
Live long and prosper.